Hello everybody, something a little bit different tonight. I was watching this particular video by Hugo Talks and I wanted to give my reply to it because it certainly impacts on people like me, because technically I'm part of the New Age, being an astrologer, but I don't necessarily identify with the New Age. And he is making a point here which I don't fully agree with, and I'd like to explain why. So he's got two main planks to his discussion, and one of them is that you have all these people, and I'll mention all their names, that are on the Wake Up America tour. And he said, although it's a totally anti-you-know-what tour, it's also a pro-Trump tour because his sons Eric and Don Jr. have been on the tour, and Trump has addressed the crowd or whatever. And he says this just doesn't make sense. So he's kind of implying there's something wrong here, that all these people who are so anti the thing are doing a tour in conjunction of support of someone who's pro the thing. And then he also talks about how many of the people in the movement, the doctors and media people, or the alternate news people who are on the kind of the alternate narrative to this, are all hooked into the New Age, to the Lucis Trust, to someone called Sharon Stone, which all sort of links to the UN, and via that into some kind of satanic communist plot for one world government, right? So I just want to speak about all those things. That's the actual picture from the thing there. It's got some, oh no, that isn't quite the picture. That's something else on his website. I'll just go down to that one. He also talks about Musk and Russian threat to nuke. Let's go. But by the way, just there you go. That's it. Russell Brand setting up Trump savior narrative. Now that is an odd one, I would say. Anything? Okay, just goes on here to the story. I'll just let you. I'll find it for you, and I'll hook into the link. But I'm just going to go to my discussion. I was just going to say to you guys something else. I was seeing Bill Gates at a TED Talk. On TED Talks, the most dry, dull, wooden, bore you to death kind of thing. You'd only go there if you were paid as some kind of, New World Order activist. God, they aim to bore you to death, I must say. But Gates was saying, you don't know why people think he wants to follow everyone around and know exactly where people is all the time. So, otherwise, why would he want to chip you? He's not interested in what you're doing and where you are. Well, Bill, isn't that part of your pandemic response, that you need to track people? Isn't that what Test and Trace in the UK and other countries was all about? Weren't people quarantined at home, and in some countries couldn't move five miles from their home? So obviously part of your pandemic response is locking people down and knowing where they are so you can bleeding prosecute them. So what nonsense. Anyway, does he not talk to Klaus Schwab? Because he should confer and realize that Klaus Schwab's let everything out the bag in his book, The Great Reset, and other boring screeds of rubbish. He's telling us that they want to do that as part of climate lockdown. They want to know where you are all the time, to tax you, to monitor your behavior, to keep you out of their way, to preferably keep you locked within 5 miles of your home. So it's ludicrous to pretend that he's not personally interested. Well, he's not personally interested in what the hell I'm doing, no, but as a collective they are interested in controlling your movement. Anyway, that's enough about Gates. Let's talk about Hugo Talks and what he's got to say here. So I've just made some notes that I'll refer to. Hopefully you can't see the notes because it would be really boring watching. Okay, so first of all, he's saying that you've got these doctors, I'll mention you, doctors and sort of anti-the-narrative activists on this Wake Up America tour. And he says, why they're on the same tour. And I think that's like marketing, For example, if I wanted to sell multicolored hair dye, I would go to a woke event and put up a stall outside. The same if I was selling paraphernalia for cross-dressing, I would go to a woke event and promote it there. Obviously, the kind of people who are pushing back against the narrative, who are now anti-establishment and who don't go along with the flow of the mainstream, are typically Trump supporters, right? They can be Bernie supporters, but we know there are even Bernie supporters that did vote for Trump just because they're pushing back and they can't stand what's become the establishment. So there's a synergy there. So it makes total sense that if you're having a Wake Up America tour, there may be kind of pro-Trump people there as well. Probably because they're helping fund it, right? So that to me is not so strange. It's just because it's synergistic. It's all about marketing and reaching your potential audience. Okay, so that makes a little bit of sense. Then he says that Trump is so pro-vaccine. Well, you see, now it gets a little bit tricky because we know that the first people Trump invited to Trump Tower when he won the election was Dr. Andrew Wakefield and R.F. Kennedy, because we know that he's kind of suspicious. To give him credit, he was one of the only major leader or Western leader that talked about the HCQ thing. Probably shouldn't say it, and advocated for it. He was very much about therapeutics rather than that at the beginning. So give him his credit. Yes, he's now very arrogant and ego-driven about the whole thing. Because he's pro sort of American industry, he says, oh, Johnson & Johnson's a wonderful American company, and so is Moderna and Eli Lilly, and he kind of supports American industry. So he's kind of going along with it. But I think the answer is what George Galloway says. To be a politician, you've got to know how to ride a bicycle and an elephant at the same time. Being a politician is fundamentally dishonest, right? And while some politicians are better than others, and Trump and Putin are a lot better than others, there's still this sort of thing where they have to keep a lot of people happy, otherwise they're going to achieve nothing. So they have to compromise their principles in some matters because it's a calculation. So is it better for him to just stick with this narrative about that, just so he doesn't totally shoot himself in the foot in his chances for 2024, so he can maybe do some other stuff? That might be part of his calculation. Who knows? So, like, my issue with Hugo Talks is like, well, can we trust anyone? Because the way he goes on, everyone's like suspect. And if you're going to take the attitude that everyone is tainted and everyone is suspect, you may as well just go back to watching the BBC, believing everything and going along with their narrative, mightn't you? So it's a very demoralizing thing that he's presenting. I know he's saying keep your eyes alert, watch out for shills, whatever, but he's basically tarring everyone with a shill brush. So where do we go from there, Okay, so also, I mean, if you had a pro-Putin rally, you'd probably get a lot of anti-vaxxers there, right? The nature of the thing is the same. So let's talk about next. I wanted to say, okay, so he also says the people who are arranging the Wake Up America tour, Roger Stone, Pat Flynn, General Flynn, and Pillowman Mike Lindell. Well, Roger Stone is very effective at what he does. He's a political maneuverer. He's Virgo, by the way. He's a highly pragmatic person. I don't think he's new agey at all. I think he supports Trump because he sees him as the best possible option to save America, right? So that's where he comes from. I don't think he's new agey. He hasn't had this, but he's not particularly anti this because some of his family members have had it, right? He's not big into that whole thing. General Flynn, I have some questions about because he seems carried away with Q stuff, which is worrying. I think my pillow man is a kind of regular guy with good intentions. I think he likes a lot of what Trump was doing business-wise with tariffs, trade, international policy. Nothing wrong with him liking that. I mean, he's taken a lot of personal risks. He was thrown off QVC and all his platforms, whatever. And so it hasn't been a good move for his business, but he's throwing everything behind this. I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's new agey. And then he talks, I'm going to talk about some of the people who are at this pro-America thing to give you some examples. Then he also mentions that all these people, all these doctors and activists who I will mention, they all go on the same shows, he says. They all go on Alex Jones, they all go on Joe Rogan, they all go on Stu Peters. Like, what's suspicious about that? Those are the hugest platforms in the alternate media. If you barred from BBC, MSNBC, ABC, Fox, and all those, which they typically are, except maybe sometimes on Fox, obviously you're going to be going on Alex Jones. And what's suspicious about that? Of course you're going to go on those shows. I don't think that's the point. It's just like so obvious. And he's got this whole issue with the new age. It's almost Puritan in a way. He says, oh, they're all into the age of Aquarius, blah, blah, blah. No. So, I mean, there's also this thing where people will say to you that rock music is very insidious, and the whole thing about the 60s movement, and this band is in on it, and that band's in on it, and this person, created a rock band to get everyone into sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and to corrupt the youth. And they go on like this about how rock music's used for all these bad, socially kind of destructive things. But again, rock music has given all of us so much as well. Think just how much enjoyment and pleasure and excitement and it's just wonderful. I mean, we've really enjoyed songs, and I don't feel that listening to any particular artist has turned me into some crazed communist leftist degenerate. So you can see that things can be used for good or evil. things are neutral. I think the New Age is neutral. You can use it for good or for bad. It just so happens that the elites are far more well versed in astrology, numerology, symbolism, vibrational frequencies than we are, and they use them, possibly and mostly probably to negative effect. That doesn't mean that we can't also use them for positive effect, right? It's a neutral thing. It's all it's in the eye of the beholder. So I just think that's crazy. Then he goes on about, a lot of these people at the Wake Up America thing and similar events over here in the UK are talking about yoga. Oh my God, yoga, the gateway drug to Satanism. Oh my God, has anyone out there done yoga? Oh, I mean, come on. There are loads of people of all different backgrounds, ages, walks of life that have benefited from yoga for strengthening their muscles, better posture. Come on, it's not a bad thing. He also talks about meditation. They talk about meditation. So, I mean, I don't fancy it, but loads of people get benefit from it. What's the problem? Oh, transcendental meditation. They talk about breath work. Even the NHS website advocates breath work. I mean, lots of people talk about breath work. It's very healthy if you have asthma and sleeping problems. I mean, we're going to criticize that? Ayurvedic medicine. I'm all for Ayurvedic medicine. I'm all for moving away from allopathic to natural medicine, and I feel Ayurvedic medicine is a brilliant, almost magical kind of medicine that we should all be getting into. Why does he see them talking about that as bad? And he mentioned shamanism, not my thing, but, each to their own. Talking about magic, Bill Gates was saying that, vaccines are magical, or they like a magic. And I thought, yeah, magic, healing, it's funny, but when Jesus was performing miracles, it's not married, I used the wrong word, the M word, it's not magic. He said vaccines are a miracle. And I'd like to say to him, yeah, Bill, but when Jesus did miracles, he didn't have to be indemnified first. He didn't go on TV or whatever and say, by the way, I'm going to do all these miracles, but I have to be indemnified. When you go to Lourdes, not that I've ever been there, but I'm sure you don't have to be indemnified just in case a miracle happens to you. I mean, come on. So there we go. I mean, look, there are lots in the New Age movement that I don't particularly subscribe to or even like. I'm not particularly into kind of affirmation-y things that much, or this whole positive thinking, The Secret. I think some of it is just a little bit for marketing and making money. I don't know if it's all very beneficial, so it's not all for me. But I don't think that we should disregard people just because they do subscribe to these kind of spiritual New Agey concepts and find them benefiting. It's just sowing more and more distrust, and we need to unify. We can't now start splitting out because some people have New Agey ideas. We need solidarity, and I'm sorry if that sounds a bit communist, but and he talks about they talk about unifying worldwide. Some of these doctors like Dolores Cahill about we need to unify worldwide. Well, we do, because the global elite are worldwide. So we can't fight them country by country. We've got to unify as well because they're unified. They're a global thing, so we have to be a global movement against them. What's wrong with that, So here are the people. He mentions Catherine Austin Fitz. I mean, gosh, she's one of the most lucid, credible, non-New Agey, sensible people from the financial world with lots of great stuff to say. Mentions Robert F. Kennedy. Okay, I have slight doubts about him, but still, I don't have a major problem. He's done amazing work. The books he's done, the energy he puts into it, fantastic, right? He mentioned Steve Martin. He seems to be doing quite good work, although he's not my favourite, but, still. Sherry Tenpenny. I mean, she's worked like a Trojan on this. She's put out loads of great information. He says, Carrie Majay, and she came out with all this crazy stuff about hydras with heads that she saw on slides. And I thought, well, she has got a fantastic resume. I think she's become a little bit carried away in some ways. But on the other hand, she saw that in the slide and she didn't know what it was, and she was just presenting what she saw. Generally, I'd say her intentions are good. He says, Brian Ardis, he's talking this nonsense about cobra poison and blah, blah. Yes, but Brian Ardis did have very important information on remdesivir as well. So he's done good as well. Maybe the cobra stuff was a little bit, but he's putting it out there because at this stage, no one knows, really. No one knows what we're dealing with. Anything can happen. Let's look at all theories. Mentions Dr. Peter McCullough was at these things. Dr. Zelensky. Well, Dr. Zelensky was the one that came up with the H thing that he read in a report, in a study done by Ralph Barrick. He's done fantastic work. I mean, he's not well. Apparently, he's terminal. So he'd rather be with his family than doing this tour. I don't think he's pushing some New Agey thing. Dr. Peter McCullough is the most cited cardiologist in the world. I don't think he's pushing some New Agey subversive thing. He mentions Dr. Tess Lowry, Dr. Jane Ruby, and then he said, oh, she said the things are full of graphene oxide. She was only reporting what Laquita Columna in Spain had studied and found. And there's even a guy in the Australian Parliament saying Australian researchers have found the same thing, so I don't think she's extreme. He mentions, oh, Del Bigtree's on this Wake Up America. Yeah, I think Del likes to make some money. It's a business model for him as well, but fair play. He's done a lot of stuff. He mentions in the UK at the similar events, there's Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Northrup, and Dr. Campbell. Now, Dr. Campbell was really pushing it. In the early days, when it was only in China, he was kind of really pushing that, oh, this is going to be a big scary thing. And he was pushing this for a long time. He seems to have had an awakening, I don't know. Look, to me, the guy would have a question mark as well. So I agree with Hugo on that one. And he says at the American events, they've also got people like Chris Sky. Yeah, he's a bit extreme. Okay, maybe. And that pastor from Poland, I forget his name, he was the one that was saying, immediately out. And that when they tried to come into, the police tried to come and shut down his services. I mean, I like that guy. I don't see what there's a problem. He's kind of casting a whole ray of doubt over all these people just because they are either sharing a stage with people who've got sort of tenuous links to Sacha Stone and the UN and New Agey things, or people who are also sharing a stage with pro-Trump people. Some of these people seem okay to me. All of them seem like they're excellently credentialed and have done an awful lot of good stuff. I don't know if you mentioned Judy Mikovits or Andrew Kaufman. Can't remember. I know some of them possibly exaggerated the side effects of the thing, but yeah, we didn't know. No one knew. I mean, I sometimes notice that Alex Jones has these people on a lot as a guest, and then they never kind of come back. So maybe he susses some of them that he doesn't like. Could be. I don't know. Who knows, really? Then he also says that a lot of these people, including Dr. McCullough, have gone on YouTube channels with extremely small subscriber bases. Like he mentioned some guy, I can't remember. It's probably a New Agey guy. And he's done interviews with loads of people, and yet he's only got 400 subscribers. And I think, well, so you can have 400 subscribers and you can still get 1 million views. I've got 4,000 subscribers, but on some of my videos I've had nearly 40,000 views and I've had 500,000 altogether. So it doesn't just mean because you've not got that many subscribers, you're not having an effect. And YouTube docu subscribers, they sometimes throw your subscribers away. We know this happens in censorship. I note Hugo is on YouTube, right? And he doesn't show his face. So do we know who he is? So he's very critical of all these people, but I don't know who he is. I think he also mentioned David Icke was at one of these events in the UK, these kind of Wake Up America UK style events. Okay, granted, Gareth Icke does have some kind of dubious new agey people who seem a bit like grifters to me. Sometimes as guests, occasionally they're not very well vetted, and some of them do sound like they're on a bandwagon with this new agey stuff just to make money. Granted, I'd have a question mark there as well. He mentions Dolores Cahill. I mean, she's had a phenomenal career and done a lot of good stuff, but he seems to also cast the spell of doubt over her, John O'Looney, the Stu Peters show. I mean, he even threw in Harry Vox and Max Igan. I mean, Harry's kind of marginal. I know he does a lot of research and everything. And Max is, like, he's having enough of his own problems. I don't think he's involved in pushing some new agey thing linked to the UN, linked to global communist New World Order. It's just a stretch. A lot of these people are just innocent and well-meaning and doing their stuff. I think he's kind of, drawing too many tenuous links here. He also mentioned this Majid Nawaz, who used to be a mainstream presenter on LBC, who's had a bit of an awakening. I've got some doubts about Majid. If he's doing good work now, he's saying a lot of the right things, but he's had such an interesting, colourful past. And yeah, I can only wonder. I don't want to say too much because I think he's one of those litigious kind of people, but I don't know enough about him. Don't think anyone does. So he also mentioned some guy from GB News who was at an event, one of these sort of events called Neil Oliver. I think it was Neil Oliver. And he sort of suggested GB News is controlled op and you can't trust anyone from GB News there. I'd kind of agree with him. He mentions Rogan. I'm not really such a fan of Rogan either. He also mentions Anna Breeze, who's a UK person, very active on Twitter. Yeah, I'd kind of agree with him that her and Kate Sheramani never felt right to me. It felt they were just a little bit using it for their own fame, their own profile. It was almost like a career move. Don't know, maybe that's unfair of me. And he mentions Nigel Farage, but we know kind of Nigel gets on every bandwagon. Sometimes he does do good work highlighting things. I think if he's become a lot less effective. There's a lot of people who say he was always controlled opposition and he was always just a Tory, you know. Yeah, I think you could make that argument, sure. Russell Brand, as far as I'm concerned, is definitely a shill, right? He wrote for the New Statesman, went out with Jemima Goldsmith. Yeah, I'd have huge questions over Russell Brand. And now apparently he's also kind of, oh, Trump's the savior. Yeah, this is kind of suspicious anyway. I mean, no doubt there's some baddies in the mix. No doubt there have been loads of infiltrators who's come in to damage the movement. I mean, no doubt any of this is happening, right? But this is going to happen in any movement. I think generally most of these people have done good work, and without them, where would we be? We would know nothing. Are you going to throw all of these people out and say that we can't really trust anybody anymore? Yeah, so I mean, look, anyone could be bad, but there are a lot of people who've done so much good work. We wouldn't know anything without them, you know. So you're going to throw them all away and say all these people were bad, and so who are we believing then? Tell me who I can believe, Hugo. Everyone is questionable. Every single person is questionable. Every single person who goes on these tours just to try and get information out there. Anyone who goes on a podcast that's, got a wide reach, or a station like that's got a wide reach, or with a presenter that's got a wide reach, is suspect. I'm really struggling with this, I think, maybe Hugo means well, and he does a lot of good work. He does a lot of good shows, but it's undermining everything. I don't think this is really helpful content at all. It's just demoralizing people and making everyone feel that they can't trust anyone, and then it's going to sow defeatism, and it's going to make people question everything, and the only result is that they'll gravitate back to the mainstream. The mainstream has got such a powerful hypnotic hold on people. People are already intimidated by family members who follow the mainstream. People are already bombarded with mainstream narratives, and they found kind of solace in hearing a lot of these people talk what they felt was sense and useful stuff. And he's now saying, you can't trust those people. So it's only going to make people feel like shit. It's going to make them feel, I listened to these people and I've been misled, and maybe my family was right. I just better go back to the mainstream. It's just going to send people back to the mainstream, or lessen the kind of barrier they've built up to mainstream narratives. I just don't think it's a demoralizing broadcast that he's done. Yeah, sure, he does very well out of it on YouTube because it's kind of controversial and it's another rabbit hole to send people down, isn't it? But it's as I've explained, I don't feel it's a good rabbit hole. The link's are tenuous and you've got to weigh up. Yes, okay, they've got this link that might be troublesome in some way, but on the other hand, are they putting out good information? Is what they say quality? Are they putting forward good studies? We've got to weigh the two up, the good they're doing versus the possibility that they may at some point in their life have been involved with something like, I don't know, yoga that he doesn't agree with. It's almost like a puritanical Jehovah's Witness approach to everything, like he's some really raving, serious Catholic that wants everything outlined. I don't know, it just doesn't make sense. Sorry about these, because sometimes when your hair's bad, it does help. Yeah, crazy idea, I know. I don't think Hugo would trust anyone, really. I don't know who he thinks we should believe, who we should trust. Everything's bad, And no doubt this Lucis trust that he talks about, no doubt it has infiltrated the New Age. No doubt it has nefarious aims. It probably is connected with the UK, with the UN. And no doubt a lot of the New Age movement is involved in pushing this thing. And I agree, because, you watch me because I'm an astrologer. That's very different. Loads of astrologers on the other side, right? So I do think the New Age is a trap into which many people have fallen, and it can send them down the road of, free love, one world government's good, a kind of Crowley-esque, do what they want, is the whole of the law. I also feel some New Agey stuff is very materialistic. Some things, times with affirmations, it encourages people to think that they can actually have everything they want in life just by thinking it, and I think that's nonsense. Sure, it's always good to be positive rather than to be negative, because you'll be more optimistic, you will make more effort in life and achieve more, but I really don't think that you attract things just because it's in your head necessarily, especially if it's only materialistic things. You might attract love if it's in your head, but just if you think of a yacht all the time, I don't think you're going to land up like a Roman Abramovich with a yacht. Not that he has them anymore. Oh well, there's a problem there. So I do feel the New Age, I agree with Hugo, there are a lot of people in the New Age movement that are problematic because they are steering people in a direction that would take them towards the World Economic Forum kind of viewpoint, right? But not everyone in the New Age movement is of that nature. Not everyone who's tenuously linked to the New Age movement is like that, particularly people like Catherine Austin Fitz, who are eminently pragmatic. He's classifying me as a New Age conspirator, and I'm definitely not. I do my own thing. I'm my own person. I have my own views, and I'm not connected to anyone. I just speak what I believe to be the truth and what's interesting to my audience. And as I've told you with the Aquarian age, there are two sides to Aquarius. There is a kind of utopian side where we could live more in harmony with each other, with nature, with natural medicine, with natural energy, and with a science that is not this kind of very intrusive engineering science based on control and based on profit, because right now science, medicine, it's all geared towards creating an elite that never lose control. But the true Aquarian age would be total diversity, total decentralization, power in a real way to people because of access to free energy and to real science, not the fake science that they try and delude us with. The bad side of Aquarius is communism, communitarianism, dogmatic control, highly authoritarian stuff, and extreme kind of what they would call the real right wing, the really extreme right wing. That's the bad side of Aquarius. So when they say the age of Aquarius, there's a utopia what we guys all believe in, who come to this channel and channels like mine. And then there's the bad side of Aquarius, which is the World Economic Forum technocracy, which is all based around this highfalutin science and that will involve scientism as a religion and will throw out all spiritual concepts in favor of everything being science, cold, clinical, where nothing is sacred, where you can mess with your DNA, where you can choose whatever you want, where there's no kind of morality in a Crowley-esque way, and where pretty much everything is on the table in nature, and where we allowed to dominate nature and control it rather than live in harmony with it, where the true Aquarian age is living in harmony with nature, natural energy, and real science. So I think he's got the wrong idea about what the New Age is potentially about. Yes, sure, he's probably right that certain horrible bodies in the UN have hijacked the New Age. Hope you liked that, and so that's my take on Hugo Talks' recent video.